Hello, welcome to the Career Jitsu podcast. Today we are in for a great treat. We have somebody who is going to give us some valuable insight into what it's really like for someone who is retired and has to adjust their mindset from going from a high stress job every day of his life to all of a sudden not needing to. And what that is like, and what kind of mindset you can have, and how it's important to deal with that. I found this quote that I would like to just start with this introduction with today. And it says, "For years, the job teaches you how to survive for everyone else. But nobody teaches you how to live once the badge comes off." I thought that was really powerful. So we're gonna talk a lot about that today. So, Stephen Washington is our guest. He is a retired police officer. He currently sells life insurance and health insurance. He's a life insurance and health insurance broker. He works for a company called Compass Health Consultants, and he will give us the link to that as well that we'll share here in the description. He is a black belt in BJJ, which is great because he is going to be able to connect his career when he was law enforcement officer and his current career now with the art of jiu-jitsu. Being a black belt, he's been training for 20 years, so he's going to definitely have some great insight for us in that connection. He has his black belt from Tommy Teixeira from the Regiment Training Center. I am familiar with the Regiment Training Center because we've had some MMA fighters through our gym that have fought some of them. A few very, very popular ones that I can remember is Jorgen De Castro and Mitch Raposa. So if anybody is into MMA, you can look them up because Stephen has had an opportunity to train with them. So it's pretty cool. So yes, so let's get started with our interview. Welcome aboard to the Career Jitsu podcast, Stephen.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Stephen, we're so excited to have you here. Thank you so much for taking some time out of your day to share with us your wisdom. I'm going to tell our listeners that in the pre-interview, we immediately saw that the word that actually came to my mind was edutainment. Our listeners are going to get educated and entertained at the same time because Stephen has just a great personality, great sense of humor, and very excited to tap into some of his stories of what it was like on the force and then talk about his transition into what he's doing now. So without further ado, Stephen, why don't you take us in a time machine back 20 years to where you started your jujitsu journey? Let us know a little bit about that.
So, how I started, this is crazy. So, I was a police officer for a very long time. And the first 10, 15 years of being a police officer, the income wasn't great, the base pay. So, what I had to do was details, right? Either watching a hole in the ground or whatever. And one of my favorite ones were doing the bars and the clubs, right? Though, because you got paid cash back then, and it was like you could make so much money before taxes came out and all that stuff. So one day I was working at a bar. It was like a club, pretty hype club, and one of the owners came up to me and was like, "Hey, listen, there's this guy over there, and he's intoxicated. Just watch him. I don't want him to start any trouble. No issues, no problems." I'm like, "All right, no problem." Now, mind you, I'm a heavyweight. Right. So at the time I was about 240 pounds, right? Always in shape. I was an athlete my entire life. So I walked over, I saw the little guy, I hate the little guy, little cute little guy over there. He wasn't acting up. He was cool. He wasn't acting up. Very polite, walked out, see you later, no problems, right? I was like, because in my mind, again, I was almost like newer. I was like, I can't wait. I'll wrap this kid up. I mean? Like, he's going to get it if he acts crazy, even though I never did jujitsu in my life. So about a week, 2 weeks after that incident, a friend of mine was like, "Hey, you should do jujitsu." Because I played football, basketball, I did a little bit of wrestling. And they were like, "You should do jujitsu." And I was like, I'm the kind of guy that if you put your hands on me and, you're not my friend or something, I might, see red, He was like, "Dude, you got to try it. You have to try it." So I said, "You know what? Okay, I'll try it." So we went up to this mill. It was a top floor. I didn't even remember the name. The name was Regiment Training Center. When I heard that, I was like, I was also in the Navy, right? 4 years before I became a police officer, I was in the military. And I remember regiment. I'm like, oh yeah, it's going to be pretty cool. So I remember walking in and I wasn't nervous because again, I was a pretty big guy. I'm not scared of anyone at that time. I see this guy who welcomes me at the door. He's probably about 6 feet, 170 pounds, if that, and skinny little dude. And he was like, "Hey, do you want to try?" He knew a little bit about me because his uncle was actually my partner, right? It was my partner at the time as a police officer. And I said, "Yeah, I'll try, whatever." Listen, me and him started to roll. Have you ever rolled before? I can remember I still had shorts on with pockets in them. If you know anything about jujitsu, you can roll with shorts with pockets.
Everybody, I had the same experience too. Shorts with pockets. Yep.
Right? Shorts with
Nothing, nothing screams noob
yeah.
like shorts with pockets.
I s- my, kept my socks on. So me and this guy, we start rolling. Listen to me. I remember there was a bunch of people in the gym, and I remember them hitting that timer. And I look up at the timer and it said 5. So I'm like, 5 minutes, 5 minutes. Listen, 4 minutes and 30 seconds on that clock. I thought I was gonna call an ambulance. I was gonna call 911. I was like, this is ridiculous. What am I doing? This kid is killing. He was tapping me every half second. I don't care whether it was a Kimura, whether it was a rear, which I didn't know the names of them, of course. Listen, this guy was even doing omoplatas on me, right? So I'm like, this is nuts. He gets up, he leaves. Next guy comes in. Never knew that this guy, who is really, when it comes to the whole combat sports and jujitsu, this guy is he's my everything. He's the man. So his name is Dan LePage. He was a Division I wrestler for Syracuse University. Um, and he's a big guy. So me and him, we start going against each other. And he is beating the living hell out of me, right? He's beating me so bad. Now, again, I'm a big guy. He's a big guy. I'm a big guy. We're rolling. I'm on the ground. People are walking in the gym. He's talking to them, having a normal conversation as I'm trying to get from off my back, right? He's like, yeah, just go over there and write this down, do this. And he's like talking like this. And I'm like, I'm going to die. Get off me. Get off me. I'm going to die. I'm going to die. And he would
and he's
always
just
say,
and he's just like, hold on, I'm helping a customer.
and he's always saying to me, "You're not going to die. You're not going to die." And then this is what made me stay, train, and do everything I could to be the best person that I could when it came to jujitsu, is he whispered in my ear as he was rolling with me. And he said this: "You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can be used against you in a court of law. You have the right to an attorney. If you can't afford an attorney, one will be appointed to you." Then I was like, "Are you kidding me, dude? He is like doing my Miranda rights, beating me up, controlling me." And I'm like, this is nuts. Like, and then let me go back. The first guy who beat me up was that guy at the bar.
No way. No
Yeah.
way.
Right. So now I'm like, after all of this, I'm like, wait a minute. Imagine if that guy, I would have, my ego was everything. I would have put my hands on him. Either I was going to shoot him I would or something, because he would have beat the living crap out of me. I'm not going to lie. I outweighed him by 100 pounds. Right. So from that point on, I dug in. I was going, man, you should have seen. I can remember taking lunch breaks. I was a narcotics detective, and I was taking lunch breaks just to go and do the noon catch wrestling class with the guy on the page, right? I was just focused on just trying to be a better practitioner. I was going to tournaments. Like, I remember the first 6 months in, I was like, I want to do a tournament, right? And at the time, I'm 30 something years old. I'm like, let's go. And a matter of fact, I won it, tap out cancer. And the guy I beat was from Team Link. But anyway, so
Oh, oh. All right, all right. Them is fighting words. You're gonna have to come into our gym. You're gonna have to come into our. You're in Massachusetts. Let's go. And when I say let's go, I'm not talking about me specifically.
oh, now
I'm talking about my team. My team, right, Jason?
your team.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
love it.
Okay,
I
bring
love it.
my team too then.
Not the clock burner. No.
So yeah, so that's what got me into it. I'm gonna tell you right now, I am not your average law enforcement officer when it comes to this stance of every law enforcement officer should learn jujitsu, right? I don't believe in that, because I believe that if you're not mentally capable of even sticking around, right? How many people leave after blue belt, right? The blue belt blues, right? How many people leave after that? So they're not mentally stable to even learn the art of jujitsu. How are they going to be able to do what they need to do out in the streets, right? And what I mean by that is you wouldn't give a bad guy a gun. Right? If you knew this guy was known for robbing stores, you're not going to teach him how to shoot a gun. So some of these dudes, some of these people, some of these
But
individuals.
don't Steven, don't you think, I don't know, but don't you think that most police officers are in it for the right reasons? And they're like, I don't know because I'm not in the force,
So
but the
again,
ones I've met
right, and
have been
you can be in something for the right reason, but when stuff hits the floor, you know what I mean, and
Mhm.
it's time to go and you gotta make the right decision, what decisions do you make, right? If that was the case, would police brutality be less than what it is now?
Mm.
Right? So if the majority, and I'm not saying the majority don't, I just think that people make bad decisions because we're all human. No matter what, we're all human, right? And you don't know what anyone went through the day before. You don't know what anyone went, the guy could come into roll call for a 4 o'clock shift and just got into a fight with his wife, right? So if he's mentally not there, why am I going to give him a tool to be able to be more aggressive?
So let me ask you this. Do you feel, for example, a guy had a fight with his wife, he's on the edge. If he has jujitsu, he still has the opportunity to control that person. Yeah, he could choke him to death, but he does have the opportunity to control him. If he doesn't have jujitsu and he's a little unstable, don't you think that's almost more dangerous? Now he's got to use his gun?
I think it's a dozen of one, half dozen of another, because
Mm.
it's the same thing, right? I don't I don't know, just based on my experience, my 30 years, I don't think anyone's just gonna pull a gun and shoot someone, right? Unless a gun is pulled on them or they have to up that level of force, correct? But
Right.
we're talking about the majority of the time, it's probably gonna be hands-on situation, right? Hands on, hands on. So if that's the case, if I taught Mr. Hothead over here who can't control his anger, who can't control this gift that I'm about to give him, then why give it to him? Instead, why don't I teach a mental aspect of jujitsu or of just everything in general before I teach him how to effectively do a kimura or you know what I mean, or rear naked, which we don't do rear naked chokes. So it's
Right,
like
right.
right. So you know what I mean, certain moves or whatever. Once I know that you're mentally able to do that, then I would be like, okay, listen, let's go. But I'm not going to get a group of just so many people. Listen, I've seen people who know jujitsu who brag about what they've done to someone. You know what I mean? Like
Mm.
a law enforcement officer getting into it with a suspect or whatever. Dude, did you see the way I took him down? I dropped my level double leg. Boom! You see? I'm like, right?
They weren't using the gentle art part of the jujitsu.
Yeah.
Correct.
In a sense, ego got the best of them.
Right. And where does that balance come from, right? It's all up here, cerebral. And if you don't use that, then it is what it is.
So
Yeah.
speaking from your experience, have you had any incidences over your career where your jujitsu literally came in handy for you?
Man, several times. So the majority of my career, I was either in narcotics or major crimes, which is like homicide unit. Um, I'll give you a one. And it really
Yes.
isn't jujitsu. It's more of so I also train in catch wrestling as well. It's more of a catch wrestling move, but the jujitsu I guess worked. So driving down the street, we had seen a drug transaction. Long story short, we ended up stopping the car. As we stopped the car and we approach it, said suspect started shoveling bags of heroin in his mouth. I'm like, just boom, boom, boom. Now, the first thing I'm thinking is, I don't want this guy to die. I'm not thinking of,
Evidence.
evidence. I don't
Right.
care about destruction of evidence. You know what I mean? At this point, it's like, oh my God, this guy's gonna die. Like, he's shoveling. Boom, boom. I open the door, I grab him, I put him to the ground. He ends up on all fours, so he's turtled. He's turtled up. All of a sudden, I'm like, oh my God, this is perfect. I get him in a front headlock, got him in the chin, lifted his chin. Tommy Texter teaches this when he does the anaconda, right? Or the Dar stroke. I lifted the chin. I got under his chin and I was able to keep his head prompted up so he couldn't swallow,
Yeah.
right? So at that point, because of that pressure, he spit it all out. So it was
So basically the chin strap saved somebody's life.
absolutely.
That's crazy.
Well,
I
it
have
was
That
only
more.
is
heard.
Wait,
absolutely.
hold on. It was more than the chin strap. It was the shoulder into the blade of the back. It was, listen, I'm putting pressure, baby.
Like your it's so funny, like, you hear about that's a very unique way for our listeners to hear about the physical skills of jujitsu being applied in law enforcement. That's a very unique one for sure.
Well, because you think about it, a lot of people are probably going to think more like, oh, yeah, this guy, big guy, come and jump me from behind, and I did this and I did that. Like, I'm de-escalation, man. I will have verbal jujitsu before I have anything, right? Like verbal jujitsu. I don't want to fight no one. I don't want to put my hands on anyone. You know what I mean? And I think that scares more people off than the physical aspect of the fight, right? Is if you start talking to someone and you're calm and you're collected and you're just like, hey, listen, sir, but it's like maybe he knows something that I don't know. So he doesn't want to, get into that. So it's
You
like,
know, it's interesting that you say that, Stephen. I saw a video on YouTube. A guy, he analyzed something ridiculous, like 300 street fights, and he just basically took a lot of data and he analyzed it, and he said, this is like X% of people who punch. This is what happens if they kick, if they wrestle, blah 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 blah. Anyway, his biggest point of this entire analysis, I should try to get that and we should put it in the link. His whole point was the best way is what you said, to de-escalate. But he said, if when you're trying to de-escalate, you look uncertain, timid, and scared, you are far more likely to get attacked than if you're totally calm and confident.
amen.
And if you just said that exact thing, and I do think that jujitsu gives that to you because I'm used to, that you're used to somebody's hands on you. You're used to somebody going 90, 100 on you to take you down, to smother you. You know that feeling because you do it all the time. That probably comes out in the way that you speak in, subtle ways. That's body language and the way your vocal elements work. And I'm sure that has helped you de-escalate, just having that training behind you and being calm, because doesn't jujitsu teach you how to be calm?
Yeah, see, and I think now that I'm older and I'm not in that position anymore, I kind of like juggle that thought, right? Was it jujitsu or was it my teachers, right? My coaches? Was it my instructors, right? Tommy Texera said something to me one day that it always lives in my head. And I tell a lot of people because I actually train out in Virginia and teach a couple classes out there. And I'll always tell them, no one cares that you do jujitsu. Nobody cares. Who cares that you do jujitsu but you? Right? And once you start thinking like that, that's when the whole mindset comes in. And that's when you're like, okay, listen, I'm going to learn this move. I'm going to learn how to escape. I'm going to learn. It's like ego. Like you said, ego is like, I'm going to kick everyone's butt in the gym. I'm going to be the mat enforcer. I'm going to be this. Why? Because you want everyone to look at you like, oh my God, he's the greatest. He's the best, right? And you see amateur fighters, pro MMA fighters, it's crazy. But when you see the meek, calm ones that are just like, listen, nobody cares that I do this. I do it because I like to do it. And it makes you a whole different person, right? It just changes your whole mindset when it comes to jujitsu. Why do you do jujitsu? Right? It's just like in the insurance business, they always ask you to sell, what's your why? Like, why do you want to come here? What's your why? And you would get a bunch of people saying, money. Oh my God, I make so much money. And I'm like, you're the dumbest person I've ever met. It should never be about the money, right? You should really want to do it because you want to serve people. You want to help people. Or there are 100 different ways. So if someone came into your gym and said, hey, I just want to learn how to beat people up, would you train them?
No, actually, Jason, you've had in the past some people who have come in with a different mindset, and you either
Yeah,
help them out or you help them out.
right. I think any environment where there's a large mass of people, not two people are the same. And I think that what I'm hearing from you here, Stephen, is that we can't treat every single person in law enforcement the same way, and we can't treat everybody who walks into our academy the same way either. And like, getting back to the mental health part, it's a really interesting perspective that you're giving our listeners here about the fact that we train law enforcement in the physical skills. So we are so concerned right now as a society on making sure that officers are physically competent to be able to do their job. But we're forgetting about a lot of times, I feel like we're forgetting about taking care of officers' mental health, taking care of their emotional control, and also their decision making. right? So I think
Exactly.
those things are also just as important as that physical skill too.
Right, because if you think about it, what trends right now, right? What trends when you look at like a TikTok or on YouTube or whatever, it's always the big, what a shaped cop that's running down the street huffing and puffing, and they're like, dude, you need to learn jujitsu. You need to learn jujitsu. I'm like, man, he just needs to learn how to take care of himself. Period. Just learn how to take care of you. The jujitsu can come.
It
But
and those 2 things can happen at the same time, I wanna say too, I do think there isn't like a one and then the other, you know what I mean? So, I don't think it's always like you gotta train them on proper mindset and then learn skill, or you have to learn skill and then proper mindset. They can happen at the same time. It's really how you train that matters the most. So, it's really
and that's what
important
I
that you
need.
said that. You mentioned that you feel like you had good coaches, and that's the reason why you were able to do your job well, because you had the coaching that taught you how to have the emotional control at the same time that they were teaching you these physical skills.
Percent. You know what I mean? Tommy, Dan, Sean, all these guys who helped me were never about win, 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 right? It wasn't about being the best at the gym. It's just about showing up. I just show up. I can remember when some guys would show up and they'd be white belts and they'd be there for a month and they'd be like, when am I getting my blue belt? When am I getting my blue belt? Or you know what I mean? Things like that. And Tommy would just shake his head and be like, dude, just show up. Just show up. That's it. And when I started like listening to him when it came to that aspect of it, is I think that's when my calm demeanor came. Then it was like I don't want to fight anyone. I don't care about like this is not what I want to do. I just want to know that I can do it. Right?
Mm.
That's I just want to know that I can. So if something really did happen, I can do it. Right? But I'd rather run. I'm not gonna lie. I'd rather you listen, teach me how to run a 100-meter dash before you teach me how to
Yeah.
choke somebody out. You know what I mean? Or you can do it at the same time. Cause I'd rather run from someone and not get, listen, look at this. I'm pretty,
I feel you. I'm the same. I feel you. I'm right with you, Steven.
I'm 54 years old of wisdom. You know what I mean? Like,
Yes,
do
yes,
not beat me up.
yes, absolutely. We are sick of being objectified.
Yes.
100%.
Yes.
No, that is so true. I always say, like, did you guys ever watch free runners parkour on YouTube? Those guys, that's the best self defense. As long as you're not with somebody else you have to protect. Those parkour guys, they could do anything. They can go up to any one of us and poke us in the forehead and say,
Yeah.
"Okay, go ahead. You know, what's your black belt going to do? What's your black belt? Or what's your purple belt going to do?"
Next
And
thing you
because
know,
you'll
they're
never
jumping
catch them.
over a car.
Yeah, they're climbing up the gutter of a building, they're on the roof. You're not gonna catch those things.
Doing a
That is
backflip,
the
waving at you.
hand
Hi.
hands down, you are 100% the best self-defense if you're not protecting, a friend or a member of your family is to run.
Right.
Like, you don't have anything to prove to that guy.
But
Nothing.
let's go back on that the mental aspect and the physical aspect in doing it together, right? I think the problem again is, and again, I think it goes to the instruction, right? So I was lucky enough to start my jujitsu journey when Tim Burrell was really, into jujitsu, right? I'd go to Providence, 6 o'clock in the morning. A guy named Gabe Perlman was my coach then at Burrell's. But Tim would come in there and Tim would teach classes, and I would look at this guy and he could kill anybody that I knew, but he was the most meek person, like the most calm person. I can remember him showing how to get out of a certain move, right? And everyone's going, okay, wait, I have to put my foot over here. And does this, do I have to underhook this? And he's looking and just shaking his head, no, just do this. And he just, no, just do this. And he just moved like his hip 1 inch. And it was like, wait
Mm,
a minute, it's that easy? And he's like, why are you making it complicated? Right? You know what I mean? So that right there, when you start learning that way, you're like, okay, this is like life, man. Why am I overthinking everything? Why am I doing all of this to do this, right? It's like a GPS. Instead of going from point A to point B in the fastest route, I'm taking this little avenue over here. I'm taking this little alleyway over here, instead of doing what I'm supposed to do, right? So if you can establish that mentality, right, that mental aspect, as well as teach people how to hurt people, simulated murder, then I get it. But where does it happen? And if it does happen, man, sign me up. Sign me up. You know what I mean? I would love to be there. I'd love to listen. I'd love to look.
Yeah, I definitely think it's a constant practice. If you don't really have it in you to be, if you have some mental illness or you have some propensities toward violence and you're a police officer or something and you're learning techniques, I don't really think it has to be one then the other. I think you can really train somebody to continuously practice it. And it doesn't have to be, where you teach them that and you expect everything to happen like that. I think it takes sometimes years of training and practice to be able to get good at it, just like anything.
Yeah.
Right. I think it's also you're merging the coaching style, the coaching philosophy, the coach as a mentor with the technique and the ability to fight a martial art. And that's why the coach and the culture are so important.
Man.
I think, Stephen, you appreciate that. You can't just teach the savagery of a martial art with nothing else around. I mean, you can, but you're doing that human being a disservice. The philosophy, like Jason, you always share philosophy with us. And when my kids were in your class, they got a ton of mental, verbal jujitsu, you called it, de-escalation, and the whole take care of yourself and take care of your body and make good choices. And I think that
That's
I give you
missing in a
credit,
lot of
Stephen.
jujitsu schools. I believe it.
Yeah, and I think it's very, very important. So that those two things be married is very, very important because that's how you make a complete human being that
Right.
doesn't use. And you said, and I love this, Stephen. You said this guy that was like could beat up anybody that you knew, but he was like the most meek person. One of our interviewees said something. He said, "Man, there's jujitsu teaches you to be peaceful but not harmless. Don't confuse the two."
I'm getting
Yeah.
scared already.
That's some powerful stuff.
But
But
see, you know what's crazy is so I go back to you, and when you said about don't you think that the majority of police officers are in this for the right reasons, right? I think that's where whether I believe that or not, if you're going to teach this art to a bunch of people who are going to be in more conflicts than anything, because listen, you're not getting a phone call because it's somebody's birthday, right? You're not getting a phone
unfortunately,
call,
no.
right? So when there's more chances of a conflict, you have to have an open mind, right? So you have to just forget that these are all good people. Just forget it. Forget everyone's a good person. Forget everyone's a bad person, and just have a curriculum and a skill set and a training method of how to keep everyone sane as well as not harmless, like you said, right? It has to
Right.
be that everything together. You can't just because that's the problem, right? That's the problem. I drive up to Dunkin' Donuts and I'm getting a free coffee because I'm wearing a blue uniform, right? So it's the same thing. I don't want to go into a gym with 50 of us and have that instructor be like, well, we're all cops. So listen, I'm telling you, I know how cops are, right? I know how we are when we get together and we do things together. Get it, right? I understand that. So if it would behoove you to have someone who's maybe not in that law enforcement aspect, right? Maybe to help or whatever, but the main instructor, like the Gracies, right? They don't the Gracies do like a law enforcement thing or they do some Gracie combative jujitsu. Same thing, right? Because it's easy for them just to block out the brotherhood, the thin blue line. They can block all that out and just teach what needs to be taught. And if that was something there, then I'd agree with everyone and say every cop should learn jujitsu. If that was jujitsu, but is that jujitsu
There's a
now?
yeah, there's a gap there, right? There's a gap. There's a gap. There's a bridge. There's a how do you say it? There's a bridging of the gap that we need to make between teaching them physical skills and teaching them the mental mindset that they need to. What do you say? What would you say, Stephen, is the biggest mental or mindset issue in law enforcement among law enforcement officers? What would you say? Like ego or
I don't have
lack
to.
of
I would say
humbleness,
I would say it's the fact that I don't want to say fakeness, but
overinflated ego?
no. See, I don't want to say that either because you need it to a certain extent, right? You do. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
you do. So it's like it's the fact that, you have to go in there and control a situation, okay?
Yeah, right. So you have to
And
have
listen,
competence.
perfect example would be this. So when I got on the job, I was 21 years old, right? And imagine me going to a call and there's to 60-year-old a couple, 60 years old, who are getting into a domestic because of finances. Who am I as the 21-year-old to go in there and tell this person not to do this and not to do that or whatever, right? I got to go in there with the, as a, did you put your hands on her? No. Okay, you're all set. Leave. Now I'm not doing my job, right? I'm not doing my due diligence. I'm not figuring out the whole problem. Because listen, you're going to be a counselor. You don't want to be, but you're going to be a counselor too, right? So you got to go in there with that confidence. But the problem is there a thin line between confidence and arrogance,
Mm.
right? And a lot of the arrogance shows when people are just too ego driven. And but then you do all of that and then you have to come home. Now what happens when you come home? The debriefing happens on either video games, alcohol, something else, right? Because there's no one there for you to say, hey, listen, buddy, you just went through that. One thing I learned when I was doing sexual abuse unit, and I remember the first person I ever interviewed, a victim, I'd said to her, I said, oh man, I totally understand. Whatever she went through, I said, I totally understand. And her face was like, oh my God. She was so pissed at me. Like I could see her, like if she could kill me, she would probably kill me right there because I said, I totally understand. Because I probably went through something or I knew someone who went through it, same thing. But then as I spoke to other people, they said, you never say that because people grieve differently, right? People do these things, they act differently. All you have to do is just say, hey, listen, okay, I'm sorry that you went through that and go on, right? Because you're not that person, right? Well, that kind of stuff is what it makes me tick now, right? It's like I won Officer of the Year in 2012, and I won it because of interviewing and interrogation, right? Because speaking to people and getting to know people and getting to know their personalities and how they, react to you and things like that. And I wish that that mentality, like every officer would go in there, but instead they have this whole here I go. I'm the best. I'm gonna save
Mm.
the world mentality, which is no good. And then when you have that and you don't do it, then what happens?
And you have the
So
other side to
interrogate.
that too. Sorry, Frank, go ahead.
No, you go.
No, actually, I was gonna actually bring you into this, Frank, and ask you to comment about because you talk a lot about that two-sided coin, right? You talk about the difference between one side being that humbleness and the other side being confident.
Correct. They are two sides to the same coin, and basically, Stephen, you said something similar to it, like the fine line between confidence and arrogance. And the word arrogance comes from arrogate, and the word arrogate means to take something that is not yours. So if I went in, for example, to my gym, I never won like world's competition, but I acted like I did. That's arrogant because I'm taking something that's not mine. But if I went in and I said, "Well, I'm a purple belt. I try hard. I'm going to give you a great role," that's confidence because I'm not taking something that's not mine. And you are correct. When you cross the line into arrogance, that is when you have problems because now you're acting in a way that you can't back up, or you're acting in a way that's going to make the situation worse because it's not based on solid, good experience. It's based on something in your head that you think you're that great. So, and I do agree with you though. You need the confidence. You can't go in there like, "Hello, sorry to bother you, sir. Really sorry." You can't do that either, so it is a fine line. I think
It's like a
that's
balance.
yes, it's a balance. And I
Yeah, but
do
we're,
think
we're
that
talking about we're talking about making that balance for young kids.
yes.
We're not talking about 50-year-old retirees now. We're talking about 20, 21, 22-year-olds who are just getting on the job. How
How
is
do you get there? How do
yeah,
you get there? Right. And that's a hard there's no one answer. There's no one way to get there, but there are ways to get there. You got there.
boy, it took me a while. It took me a while because I was the arrogant one. I was the arrogant one, right? I was the guy who was like, yeah, I was ready to go. It took a while to understand more of like the um the human aspect of the job. That's the mentality. It's not human, right?
Right.
That's how you feel. You feel this is not human, right? Listen, I come home like right now, I work from home, but I wake up at 7 o'clock in the morning. I take my dog out and something, and then I'll go back and I'll sit down. And because I'm not in a structured environment anymore, everything is black. Like it feels sometimes, this is why the average age or the average years of survival after a police officer retires is like 7 to 8 years or something after they retire,
Wait,
right?
what?
Because you either die of loneliness or because people you're just not doing you're so used to doing something for so long.
I gotta cut in here because I noticed I'm a teacher, and when I started teaching, I was very young. But the faculty where I started teaching was very old. And a lot waves. My first 2 years were waves of retirees. And I could not believe how many, and it was very sad, how many teachers died 2 years into the retirement, first year into the retirement, 3 years into the retirement, and they had all these they were so excited to retire and they were great people. And I remember sharing that theory with somebody and they're like, "Well, of course they're going to die. They're old. That's what happens." And I'm like, "No. Yes, of course, the death rate's going to be higher at that age than at 30, but I I have no science to back this, but I feel like your body at a cellular level, when you stop doing the work that you do, it thinks, it knows, the DNA somehow knows, oh, you're done, you're ready to die, which is why I think it's so important to do what you're doing, transitioning into something else that has meaning to you, to tell the cells in your body, we still got work to do. Let's do our work, right?
Amen. Yeah, that's it, man. Because again, your body is so used to doing one thing, right? I'm so used to waking up and putting a gun belt on and going to roll calls and doing all these things that I remember when I was retiring. I was like, oh man, I can't wait to get out of this. This is gonna be the best thing ever. Oh man, every day's a Saturday and this is the best. And then the first couple of weekends, I'm just like, oh my God, this sucks. Like, what am I gonna do with myself? But thank God I had jujitsu. Thank God. Listen, I retired on March 31st, 2025. On April 1st, 2025, I packed my stuff and moved down south, right? I'm down south. And you know what I did April 2nd, April 3rd, and April 4th? I found two gyms to train in. One a no gi, one a gi. And that was it. I was just like, I have to, this is something I can't not do. And I did it. And it was the best thing that ever happened to me. Matter of fact, I got beat up by some girl who, she was the 10th ranked black belt in the world. She beat the living out of me. Brazilian girl. Oh my God, she was nasty. But I just kept it up. I just kept doing it. And it's funny because people see that you're a little elderly, you're a little older now. So they take it easy on you when you're in these the no-gi gym that I go to is affiliate to 50/50 with Ryan Hall. They're all comp guys, right? They're comp guys. So they're blue belt comp guys who are 22, 23 years old. They're just amazing at jujitsu. So they'll take it
Yeah.
easy on me. It's like, I'm an old man, slow down. Again, it's easy because I
That's
can I can mentally screw him, right? I can mentally just I'm there with them. You know what I mean? And I know what to do. So that's a good aspect of that mental aspect when it comes to
And it is
yeah,
nice to easy segue into a family. When you're moving to a new place and you find a gym that has your culture, which it sounds like you got that, now you have people that are going to say, "Hey, we're having a barbecue. Come on over. Hey, do you know this place? It's a great restaurant. You should try it out." You now have that community built for you, ready to rock.
yeah, and jujitsu for you, you already had jujitsu. So when you retired, it was kind of easy for you to just, get right back into jujitsu, or continue it. So what would you say to some officers out there that are listening, or anybody who knows an officer that's listening, any of our listeners? What would you say for advice for them if they were to be retiring and um, thinking about jujitsu?
don't stop. Don't stop. Keep going. Um, and just like any other time, you might not do 4 days, 5 days a week, but at least try to get in there 2 or 3 times a week and just get better every day. That 1%, right? That 1%. Just get a little better every day. I don't care where you're at. Like you said, the family that you do create, and it's going to be totally different because you're not working now, right? So even if you're at the same gym and you're retired, it's just going to be it's just different. And it's hard to explain if you're not in it. If you're not there and you're not going through it, it's hard to explain. But all I got to say is Don't give up. Like, keep going to jujitsu. I don't care if you're gonna go there, sit on the bench and drink some water and watch jujitsu. Just go to jujitsu is everything to me. To me, it's everything.
And how about a retired officer that's never trained jujitsu?
I would say train jujitsu or pickleball. No, don't do pickleball. I would say the
But
same
there's
thing.
a lot of activities, right? You know, when you retire, you've got a lot of time. You can do a lot of different things, right? Why
Oh
jujitsu?
man. And then that's what's even great about it is I would say this, if you're retired or retiring and you thought about joining jujitsu or doing jujitsu, listen closely. Start with a gym that has 6 a.m., right? Start with a gym that has 6 a.m. classes because mostly law enforcement, listen, our hours are screwed up, right? I don't care what anyone says. We have probably the worst hours out of any occupation in this world, whether you're working a mid watch, a second shift, a first shift, it doesn't matter. Your body is just all out of. Get yourself back in a routine. Start that morning off right because I'm telling you right now, you're going to want to sleep and sleep and sleep, right? Mostly if you're not working, if you're not still doing details or doing whatever, find a gym, do the 6 a.m. classes, and then work from there, right? Work from there and don't overdo it. Take your time, relax. Like I said, 1% every day. So if you go there and you never rolled before, if you rolled for 3 minute round, then you know what? Next week, try to do 3.5 minutes. And then next week, try to do 4 minutes. And then just keep going and keep going and keep going. You're only going to get better.
And I don't mean to cut you off on this deep thought, but you can do that, or you can just buy my clock burning techniques pamphlet. So we have options here.
The clock burning techniques, I would be like, wait a minute, I think he's trying to stall. Let me do something. And then you'll be like,
Well, that happened. That happened last time with Big Juan. I was stalling too much. He stood up because I start down because I don't want to get thrown. And Big Juan, he's onto my techniques and he chased me down, and it was ugly.
So if you're retired and you're just starting to learn jujitsu and you come into a gym and you find a clock burner, how do you handle it? How do you handle a clock burner being a beginner
be his
retired
best
jujitsu
friend.
guy?
Be his best friend. Right? Because one, you're retired, so you're also old like the clock burner. Okay. So
Thank you.
just be his friend and learn together. That's all.
Yeah, I love it.
Learn
I
his
love it.
ways.
Let's
See,
go.
Blake, I think we have something here. Your niche
This is
is
it. Finally,
retired police
somebody who
officers.
appreciates me. I
I
think you're the
do.
first person who's ever appreciated me. I
Listen,
needed that. I needed that.
I'd rather you be a clock burner than pull guard. That's all I gotta say. Okay, just don't pull guard.
And I never pull guard.
There you
So
go.
we're on
Good
the
for
same
you.
page. You come down and we'll see if you could beat Team Link again, okay? Because I'm gonna burn that clock down to nothing. It's gonna be a tie.
I
I don't
won't
care
You
let
who
you
can't
wins.
burn
win
it.
if you got no more
I won't
time,
let you
Steven.
burn it. Just you're lucky I'm leaving on Monday because if I wasn't, I would come down there and oh my God, I would have memories of tap out cancer in Danvers and what I did. So stop it. Stop it.
Steven, the one thing you gotta know about me is I know exactly when to run my mouth and when not to. I feel very safe
Oh.
with the through the internet.
Yeah.
Well,
Good
this is
stuff.
great,
Good
guys.
stuff, man.
Thank you so much for the laughs, and I'm sure our listeners are loving these laughs too. But time is coming to an end. Frank, what time is it?
Why, let me check my watch. Kids, it's tap out time. Your favorite time of the program where we tap out with lots of golden nuggets from Steven. So, Steven, I have a whole thing here of my notes. Look at all these wonderful notes that I took from you. It's all brilliant stuff. I'm going to just try to pull out a few things that really made an impact on me and share that with our listeners. So, the first thing that you said, which I love, you were a big guy, 240 pounds, super athletic, had wrestling and football behind you, and the whole I see red mentality. Yeah, so you had no worries, but then you went in and there's a skinny guy and you felt his pressure. He tapped you out at will, and that is the humbling of jujitsu.
Amen.
And you took it the right way. Instead of storming out like, well, if it was on the street, I'd be punching him, whatever. You said, that's magic. That's magic. I want to do what he does. And that magic to segue into our next point, you made a couple of references throughout this that with great power comes great responsibility. Just teaching the magic alone, not in context, not with philosophy, not with great coaches, is not the best way to learn jujitsu, especially if it's for law enforcement. You need the mentor, the philosophy, the ideas, the mindset. That has to be half of your training as well. So you really drilled that, you really ensconced that into my mind. You talked a lot about that. You talked about the ego problem. You talked about it actually a couple of times, and you have to be careful about that ego. Like when you said, I have it here. You said nobody cares that you do jujitsu. Get get your ego out of your game. You're doing this to make yourself a better person. And I know a lot of the philosophers that I read say if you serve your ego, you're going to become slave to your ego. We all have to like avoid doing that. Some deep stuff there. One of my favorite stories, hands down, on this show is how your top front headlock pressure and chin strap saved a guy from ingesting enough heroin to kill 5 people. That I just love that story. That's amazing. Your jujitsu saved somebody's life. That's great. I like that you talked about verbal jujitsu and something you talked about that your coach said. It's not about win, win, win. It's more about show up, show up, show up. And I love that because truly that is universal. That's for police officers. That's for jujitsu practitioners. That's for boxers. That's for somebody learning finance, financial formulas, coding, computers, a brand new physical education teacher. That is universal wisdom. Forget about winning, winning, winning. Forget about impressing everybody. Just show up and get that 1% better. Just, you really articulated that well. Let's see. We talked about the difference between being harmless versus peaceful. We want to be peaceful practitioners who know we can take care of ourselves, but we're definitely not harmless. And you have to balance those two things in your ego, the humbleness, the confidence, and then don't tiptoe over to the arrogance because arrogance not only hurts you, but it hurts the people around you. One of the things I like that you said, by the way, this is just goofy, but it made me really think. I'm lucky as a teacher. I get a lot of letters from my kids, my students, thank you letters. It's very a peaceful, happy job. But you said this, and it kind of like made me feel a little bad. You said, as a police officer, you're not getting a phone call because it's someone's birthday. And it just reminded me of the sacrifice that police officers, military people make. They don't get those phone calls saying, hey, it's someone's birthday. They're getting that phone call for war to protect people. And I'm thinking of Dave, a guy I roll with who's a state trooper. I am going to make a phone call to him one day just because it's somebody's birthday to make his day. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to credit you for that. The other thing, family and community really does happen with jujitsu. When you find, like you said, it has to be a gym with the right culture, right? When you find that, and I'm so happy that you found two gyms. And that has instantly enhanced your life because you met some great people who are going to be your best friends for the rest of your life. Jiu-jitsu does give you that gift. And finally, you encouraged every officer who does jujitsu when you retire, please continue doing it. Gives you a sense of purpose. It gives you that sense of community. It gives you a place to be. And it's definitely a good therapy for your mind. So, shout out to all of our police officers and the ones who are retiring. Please take this advice. It's great advice. You have to take care of yourself and your mindset. I hope I wrapped it up pretty well there.
You did awesome.
Thank you. Thank you. So, um, you're going back to, where is it, Virginia?
Yep.
So I could taunt you all I want, and I could.
Not till Monday. Not till Monday.
Oh crap!
You're not
Frank,
too hard to find. I'll find you.
he's in Massachusetts right now, Frank.
Yeah, I know.
Hey, and he has all weekend. It's Friday right now. He has all weekend,
I
so be
listen,
careful.
listen. I got excited. I could trash talk a black belt.
Yeah.
Show all the fans how tough I am without having to back it up. So, but I'm in dangerous water. So I'm gonna back off here. No problem. We're all friends. Peace and love. Peace and love.
That's it.
Yeah.
So, Jason, do you want to do a call to action? And also, please remind our listeners of Steven's consulting, health consulting firm, and a link. We're gonna have a link to that. So listen, insurance is all about who you trust. And you just heard, we just had a great conversation with a great man who you know you can trust. So we're going to put the link there. And if somebody doesn't have those products and services to help them stay healthy and have life insurance to protect their children, give him a call. You know you're going to like
Yeah,
him and you know he's going to care about
definitely.
you.
That's it.
Definitely. Steven, get plug that name. What is the name again and what you're doing?
Compass Health Consultants. I am an independent health and life insurance broker. So I can help you with health insurance. I can help you with life insurance, whether it be term, permanent. I got everything.
All right.
And he's a black
Yes.
belt. He knows his stuff.
And he's a
And it
black
doesn't
belt. He'll
matter
give
where
you
you're
the best
from.
service he can.
It doesn't matter where you're from. Right now, I'm licensed in like 20 states, but if you're in a state that I'm not licensed in, I'll get licensed. I'll pay for it. I'll do what I got to do to help your families.
Oh, that's
Bam.
awesome. That's awesome.
You heard
Yeah,
it
we will.
right
Okay,
here.
so you heard that, listeners. We're going to leave that link in our description so you can click on it. All right. Thank you so much for your time, Stephen. We really appreciate this. Our other call to action, Frank, would just be to get this out there. If you're listening to this podcast, please share it. If you know Stephen, if you've trained with Stephen, if you've worked with Stephen, please share this in your socials and get Stephen's story out there. Because I think it's a very valuable one to law enforcement and to retired people who are retired and looking for a passion like jujitsu too. So thank you so much, Stephen.
Thank you.
And Stephen, can you please stay on for a little bit, even though we're done with the show? It could take anywhere from 1 minute to 5 minutes to upload. So you could shut your camera, whatever you want to do, but we just have to have you on just for a little bit.
Got you.
Great. Thank you so
All right.
much.
Awesome. All right. We talk to you soon.
All right.
All
Later.
right. Be good. Be good. Peace out.
See you
Peace.
guys. Stop.